I'd always enjoyed the thrill of driving at night. There was something eerie and mysterious about the dark, desolate roads that appealed to me. One night, I decided to take a detour from my usual route and explore a lesser-known highway that locals referred to as the Haunting Highway. They said it was cursed, but I dismissed it as mere superstition. As I drove along the dimly lit road, the surrounding forest seemed to close in on me, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement. My headlights struggled to pierce through the darkness, creating an unsettling ambience. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, blaming it on my imagination running wild. Suddenly, I saw a faint figure standing by the side of the road. My heart raced as I approached, and I realized it was a hitchhiker. Against my better judgment, I felt compelled to stop and offer them a ride. The hitchhiker was an old man, with a face worn by time and eyes that held a haunting sadness. He thanked me for stopping and climbed into the passenger seat without saying much. The atmosphere inside the car grew heavy, and an awkward silence enveloped us. I attempted to make small talk, but the old man only gave vague responses. He seemed preoccupied with something else entirely. As we continued down the haunting highway, strange things began to happen. Unsettling shadows moved along the edges of the road, and bizarre noises echoed in the distance. I tried to rationalize it all, attributing the sightings to tiredness and the sounds to the surrounding wildlife. But then, as we rounded a bend, I caught a glimpse of something terrifying in my rearview mirror. It was a face, pale and ghastly, staring back at me from the back seat. My heart leaped into my throat, and I swerved the car, barely avoiding a collision with a tree. "Did you see it too?" the old man asked, his voice quivering. My mind was reeling, and I realized that he wasn't just an ordinary hitchhiker. He was a ghost, and he had been haunting this highway for years, seeking something he had lost in life. In a panic, I begged him to leave the car, but he refused. He said that he needed my help to find closure, and I was the first living person who had seen him in decades. Reluctantly, I agreed to assist him, hoping that doing so would allow me to escape this nightmarish ordeal. The old man guided me to an abandoned cabin deep in the woods. He revealed that it was here that he had lost his beloved wife and child in a tragic accident. Since then, he had been trapped in a loop, reliving the haunting memories of that night. With trembling hands, I searched the cabin, hoping to find something that could set his soul free. Finally, in the dusty attic, I discovered a worn-out family photo. As I held it up, the old man's face softened, and tears welled up in his eyes. "I can finally rest now," he said, his voice barely audible. With that, he vanished into thin air, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of peace. The haunting shadows and eerie sounds faded away, and the haunting highway returned to an ordinary road. From that night on, I never drove on that highway again. The experience had changed me, reminding me that there are forces beyond our understanding lurking in the darkness. Some roads are better left unexplored, for they hold secrets that can shatter the boundaries between the living and the dead. Driving alone at night was a common occurrence for me. I enjoyed the solitude and the quietness that the darkness brought. However, one particular night would forever change my perception of these late-night drives. I was on my way back from a friend's house when I noticed a figure on the side of the road. As I got closer, I realized it was a young woman, her thumb outstretched, seeking a ride. It was strange to see someone hitchhiking at this hour, but I felt an odd compulsion to help her. I pulled over and rolled down the window. "Need a lift?" She smiled gratefully and got into the back seat. Her presence brought an uneasy feeling, but I attributed it to the late hour and my overactive imagination. I asked her where she was headed, but she remained silent, staring out the window. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, and the darkness grew more oppressive. I tried to make conversation, but she gave only brief, cryptic replies. As the minutes ticked by, I began to feel as if we were going in circles, passing the same landmarks repeatedly. Panic gnawed at the edges of my mind, and I asked her if she knew the way. She turned to me with hollow eyes and whispered, "I'm lost. Can't find my way home." Her words sent shivers down my spine. I decided to end this eerie journey and find the nearest gas station to ask for directions. But when I turned my attention back to the road, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The hitchhiker was no longer in the back seat. She had vanished into thin air. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. I searched the car, thinking she might be playing a prank, but there was no sign of her. Fear and confusion overwhelmed me as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. Just then, a cold breeze swept through the car, and a whisper echoed in my ears. "Help me. Don't leave me here." I couldn't bear the chilling pleas, and in a state of panic, I sped away from that spot. But no matter how far I drove, I couldn't escape the feeling that she was still with me, her presence lingering like a haunting specter. The night seemed endless as I continued to drive, hoping to shake off the terror that had taken hold of me. It was only when the first rays of dawn broke on the horizon that the haunting ceased, and the road ahead appeared normal once more. Unable to find any logical explanation for what happened, I sought answers from locals. It was then that I learned about the phantom hitchhiker, a spirit said to haunt that stretch of road for years. Legend had it that she was a young woman who died tragically in a car accident while trying to hitch a ride home. Since then, countless drivers had reported picking her up, only to have her vanish from their vehicles, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of despair and loss. From that night on, I vowed never to pick up hitchhikers again, especially on lonely roads at night. The memory of the phantom hitchhiker would forever be etched in my mind as a chilling reminder of the supernatural horrors that can lurk in the darkness, waiting for unsuspecting souls like me.